So yesterday, a second federal court, this time in D.C., in front of Judge Contreras, ruled that Donald Trump did not have the authority under the International Economic Emergency Powers Act to put in the tariffs unilaterally that he did on Liberation Day, the 10% baseline with varying amounts for other countries and going as high as 145% on China, and then backing those back off because, Trump always chickens out. But anyway, this judge Contreras ruled that Donald Trump did not have the power to unilaterally put these tariffs on, that it did not fit within the scope of the IEEPA. Now, this is similar to the ruling out of the U.S. International Trade Court that was handled on Wednesday. Now that ruling had already been appealed, and the appeals court had put a stay on that ruling. I do not know if the appeals court ruling also applies to this case in front of Judge Contreras. However, another judge now has said that Donald Trump doesn't have the authority to do this. Now, there were a couple other cases that were also brought before other federal judges, but rather than hear those cases, they moved those cases over to the International Trade Court. They tried to move this one to the trade court as well, but the judge declined, saying he felt it was within his purview to handle. And now he has made a ruling. Like I said, I don't know if this falls under the same ruling as the previous Court of Appeals and is going to allow it to continue. If it doesn't, and a different Court of Appeals puts out a different ruling, ultimately the Supreme Court would have to get involved and decide which ruling plays, and are the tariffs on, are they not on? They would have to make at least a ruling on whether they get stayed or not. And they probably wouldn't rule on the merits of either case yet, as they still have to play through the appeals process. Now, we will see what this appeal plays out and how this case changes. But this is now two courts that have said Donald Trump doesn't have the authority. For their part, the Trump administration is trying to say the court should play no part in tariffs. However, this is actually their job. It is to interpret the law and to make sure people are following the law. Now, tariff power is held by the Congress, not by the president, but the International Economic Emergency Powers Act that they have been using for these tariffs grants limited tariff ability to the president because Congress decided at the time it was easier for one person to act in response to emergencies rather than trying to get both chambers of Congress to agree on something, as well as then getting the president to sign whatever they agree on. So it's supposed to be short term, it's supposed to be in response to emergencies, not at the whim of the president, which is how Donald Trump is trying to use it.